Okay, cool. So, before we start, I have a quick release statement that gives me the permission to use your audio recording for this project. Okay, so here's the statement. This opening establishes your release to use your likeness image in the video and or audio recording. You hereby give your consent to B-Story Pictures and or subsequent company that houses the East Hammond, the Village Grapevine project. Further, you acknowledge that you give us for gratis, irrevocable worldwide rights in perpetuity, regardless of whether these materials are used for advertising, promotion, education, publicity, or any purpose on behalf of the company. The acquired digital files will remain the property of B-Story Pictures, its subsidiaries, or agents. Finally, you waive all rights, claims, and damages. The exploitation of all recording and or oral history is acquired for the purposes of education, history, and to uplift the city of East Hammond and its residents. You attest that you fully understand the aforementioned. Do you agree?
I do.
Okay, cool. So let me just start out by you just saying your name, your age, and what street you grew up on in Hammond.
Okay, my name is Harold Jones, and I'm 71 years old. I really didn't grow up in Hammond. I came to Hammond in 1970.
Okay.
And
Okay. So when you came to Hammond, where did you move to?
Well, I moved to, first I lived on Mall Street. I think it was 1041 Malls. And then from Malls I went to Nova Street. And then Nova, I went to 1129 May Street. In 1978, I moved to 1129 May Street. And I've been living on May Street ever since.
Oh, okay. Okay. And when you moved to Hammond, where did you move from?
Okay, I came from Louisiana. What happened, after the military, I came straight to Hammond.
Oh, okay. So when you went to the military, you were living in Louisiana?
Yes.
Okay. What part of Louisiana were you living in?
I was living in the village, this country area called Holtonville, Louisiana. That was just about 24, 25 miles northeast of New Orleans.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Okay.
What'd you say?
I said north of New Orleans.
North of New Orleans. Okay. All right. So before we get to the military stuff, I just want to ask you some questions about Hammond. And so on May Street is where you spent most of your time?
I spent pretty much, well, yeah, I spent most of all my life on May Street, in Hammond and May Street.
Okay. Can you say just basically who was in the house at the time when you were, in Hammond? Was it just you? Was it your mom and dad? Was it just who was there?
It was me and my wife, and at that time I had one child.
Okay. So just give you the names of the people in the house.
Well, at this point, the name would have been myself, Harold Jones, Amanda Jones, Shalanda Jones, Shondolyn Jones, she spelled that Shondolyn, and Harold Jones the second.
Okay, cool. So do you remember any of your neighbors to the left or right or across the street?
Well, George Green, we call him Mr. Green, lived to the west of me, and then the Mac Adams lived to the east of me, and across the street was, as well as I know them, the name slipped my mind right now. They're still there, but there was across the street. It didn't come to me, but the Chases were across the street.
Oh, okay. Well, then this was on Mall Street then, right?
Well, no, one of the Chases moved to May Street in the late 70s or right around the early 80s.
Oh, I get you. Okay. Okay, and so this was, what, 1971?
No. I came to Hammond in 1970, but this was about between 78 and 80. 81, that's what it is.
Okay, 78. Okay, cool. So basically, what was the environment, since that you didn't go to school in Hammond, what was the environment at the time in terms of like the racial makeup of Hammond during this?
Well, when I came to Hammond, Hammond, number one, was like more of a family town.
Mm-hmm.
The section called East Hammond, there were basically three major sets of families that were in that area, notable, and that was the Burnses, the Alexanders, the Clintons, um, and McClendons, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time grew on, well, usually black people live between Cleveland Street and, well, most of us was living between Cleveland and Highland Street Alliance, and then later on as time progressed, we started moving a little further north. But the environment, racially wise, blacks were basically segregated, and we all lived in the same area.
Okay. Okay. Um, do you remember Conkey Street and some of the environment on Conkey Street and basically what went on that street?
Yeah, I remember Conkey before the renovation, and Conkey Street technically was kind of like, I mean, for lack of a better term, the Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, all your businesses were basically on Conkey Street. Can't remember all the businesses because I wasn't really a street person, but I know Mr. Collins has his store there on Conkey, and then there was the washer rack on Conkey, and then Jack Ruffin had his place, and there was a number of places that was on Conkey, but it was like where everybody navigated, went out and, kind of groups. There was the Brooks House there on Conkey Street too, and the Brooks House was really the place for all the young folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. And so on the 1100 block, right after Brooks House, they had a bunch of taverns and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Do you remember? Was it a calm area, or was it a rowdy area, or just in your recollection?
Based on my recollection, Conkey Street was fairly calm. I mean, you back in the day, every now and then a guy got in a fist fight, but that was to the extent now. As time began to progress, every now and one, I want to periodically, you might have heard of somebody getting killed, but it was minimum. I mean, it was like one every 10, 15 years or so. I mean, it wasn't a regular thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was basically, as I saw it, a calm place, and people could feel safe to walk up and down Conkey Street, even with the taverns and the gambling joint and the whole work. But nobody bothered anybody.
Okay. Okay. And when your kids were growing up, did you have all your kids by?
Well, all my kids grew up in Hammond. My one daughter was born in New Orleans, but she was 1 year old when she came here, so they all grew up in Hammond.
Oh, okay. Okay. And what schools did they go to?
Well, my oldest daughter went to Lafayette, and Lafayette and Hammond High, I think that's the way it was, because I think Lafayette might have gone to 8th grade back then. And then, but she went to Lafayette, Bishop Noel and Hammond High. She spent 2 years at Bishop Noel, and then she went to Hammond High, graduated from Hammond High. My middle daughter went to St. John the Baptist until she got to 8th grade or 9th grade, and then she went to Hammond High, and she graduated from Hammond High. And my son went to Maywood, and from Maywood to Eggers, and then from Eggers to Hammond High.
Okay. Okay, cool. And do you remember, the environment then, seeing that blacks lived in East Hammond, or, kind of a segregated part of
right,
of Hammond. Once they went outside of that area, what was the racial makeup, and were there any problems that you guys had, or was it just smooth sailing?
Well, the thing is that I think a lot of people probably didn't recognize it, but there were, I won't say subtle racism because it wasn't. White folks kind of, it seems to me that they kind of accept black folks, but black folks didn't pose a real threat. I mean, we had, NAACP in Hammond, and like I said, we had a few permanent blacks in Hammond, and those were the people that white folks basically went to when they needed answers to things. And so it wasn't like, blacks had a big problem, but I guess you just had a sense of, you didn't realize it. I guess many people didn't realize it, but you had your place and you kind of stayed in your place. I hate to put it that way, but nobody rougher than the fellas. I mean, every now and then the NAACP would, go to a school board meeting, or a few people get together on school issues and raise a little cane, but nothing major came out of it, okay, went on in Hammond, as far as race goes.
Okay. And could you, the fact that you said that blacks lived up to maybe Lion Street, past the park,
Right.
why couldn't they live beyond that?
Well, I think many of us didn't know it, but there was a code. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a black code in the housing market. And basically, at one point, they weren't allowed to sell houses to blacks, and sell houses to blacks in the Hammond area, in certain areas. But what started to happen, and I was part of it, we started, I forget what it was called, but investigated the real estate companies. And I and another person, Jewish guy by the name of Barney, I'm trying to remember Barney's last name, but anyway, we were posed as home buyers. And the thing is that when we got to the real estate company, Barney Charlotte was his name, they would tell me one thing, and they would tell him something else. And so they would, what was it? It was there was this organization, the Hammond Human Relations Commission. They were the ones sponsored that.
You said the Hammond Human Relations Commission?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were like testers. And they sent out a number of testers. And then they would gather results, and they'll follow with the federal government. So a number of realtors in Hammond were sued, and they lost their cases. There was no monetary value, no money in that involved, but they had to stipulate that they wouldn't demonstrate against black people, and whatever the laws of the federal government required them to do, that's what they had to do. So that was part of why they started to break.
So that organization, that they reported to, like, HUD, Housing and Urban Development, or EEOC, the Equal
I was kind of young. And I want to say, when they said it was probably HUD. It could have been EEOC, but I'm thinking it might have been HUD that they were reporting to.
Okay. And from that, that's interesting. So you were a tester, and so you went out,
Yeah.
and was it a tape record situation, or was it just a word of mouth? You came back and did a report or something.
It was word of mouth.
Okay. And did this actually go to court, or was it just a mandate by the government just to say, okay, stop the discrimination?
I'm somebody else trying to get on this line, but we're going to continue. Anyway, I'm almost sure it went to court. I'm almost positive it went to court.
Okay. So, do you remember the people, any black people at that time from East Hammond who stood out as, say, movers and shakers, people who you could go to that could get things happening, get things done, or make change? Who were those people, those leaders?
Let me just say this, Brother Morris.
Mm-hmm.
My early years, like I said, I grew up in the South, and in the South, in my mind, was a lot different from the North and how black people function. And so, I mean, I'm getting to your question.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's good.
Now, the people that stood out in Hammond, I would think, I mean, was like Pearline Jenkins. She was president of NAACP, and she had her little, entourage or her group. And then there was Jewel Alexander. I mean, I'm not going to say that Jewel was a mover and shaker, but he was a person that was respected among white folks in Hammond. So he can go there and, I mean, he can, get a few things for himself and his family and one or two other people if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
The McClendons were, Mr. McClendon, Mrs. McClendon, they were well respected. They were kind of on the good side. When I say the good side, just in my opinion, good-hearted people. Good-hearted people. I wouldn't put them in the category of civil rights, folks. I mean, in their own way, they may have been, civil rights kind of oriented, but they were just wanted to work in the community, wanted to get things done. Wasn't good. I mean, they had their, and I'm speaking probably more of Mr. McClendon than Mrs. McClendon because she was the wife type of person, in my opinion, a good wife.
Mm-hmm. So are you talking about Bill McClendon or the sons Wayman or Nate? That?
No, I'm talking about Bill McClendon. That
Bill.
was called up. Yeah,
Okay.
I think he was called up. Because there was two McClendons. There was Bill, and then there was another one. I can't remember his name. But I'm talking about there was one that lived on Cleveland Street, and then he later on was moved to I think not Conkey, but Field Street, and was killed by a young man. He was, like I said, they were a good family. They raised good children,
Mm-hmm.
and they were involved. I mean, at least Mr. McClendon was involved. But I don't know that I would say that there were what I would call real civil rights. I just want to say stand the bearer for civil rights as I had seen it. But when I grew up, I was around people like Stokely Carmichael and H. Rat Brown and some of these people. I mean, I didn't know Angela Davis, but I knew Dr. King. Those guys came to the South. I went to Southern University in my young years. Those guys spent a lot of time on the campus. People did a lot of marching, but in Hammond, they had a tendency of not really marching and protesting. They just met with the powers and try to talk things out. And I just, some things got done, but in my mind, I just thought they could have been done a different way. But those would have been the three people that I would say. Those Jim Davis too. I forget Jim Davis. He wasn't again a proponent of, in my opinion, civil rights. A drum major for civil rights. But in his own way, he worked with the city. He found himself in a position that he could help folks as far as the sanitation district went. I'm not sanitation district. The sanitation department went, and he did, I guess, in his own way. But things just kind of for black people. Oh, and Reverend Parrish too. Reverend Parrish was probably, and this is John Parrish. He was the first black. Yeah, he was the first black councilman. And again, good-hearted guy, good guy, raised good children. And in their own way, they had a way of dealing with white people, and moving living in the way that they felt. People did well in Hammond under those circumstances. So, it's hard to say whether they were Chicka's move, what kind of impact they had on the community, or if they just have to be in the right place at the right time.
Okay. What was Jim Davis, is that the same as J.P. Davis?
Yeah, same person.
Okay. What was his job? I mean, what did he do?
He was superintendent of the sanitation district. Well, not sanitation, but the garbage department. I guess the sanitation department, that's what they called it. Yeah, he was, at one point, he was the superintendent. And he was the superintendent under Clinton and I want to say Raskowski. And then what happened, those the mayor, when McDermott, the old man McDermott came in, he was a young man then, he brought in Robert Allen, and he let J.P. go. But J.P., while he was there, he played his role. And then Robert Allen, under the McDermott the two McDermott administrations, was superintendent until he retired.
Did J.P. have the ability to go to the white power structure and ask for things on behalf of?
Well, and that's what, I mean, Brother Martin, if he may have, but I don't know. I mean, he was even president of the United States. I mean, not the United States, but president of the NAACP. But the thing is, he was dogmatic in the way that he functioned, and he wasn't the easiest person to talk to, and so it's hard for me to know what he did as far as bringing people into the fold in the community.
Okay. And but you listed a good number of people, and then Parrish, if you remember, John Parrish.
Yeah, I remember. So let me just say this about John Parrish. Now what happened in Reverend Burns, it was back in the late 1970s, early 1980s. Reverend Burns had a dream, and his dream was to build a senior citizens building, because at that time the housing authority was giving out money so that people can build buildings for folks in the community, and that's when they were renovating East Hammond and that whole area. And Reverend Burns came to he appealed to the church, and he said, I need $10,000 for seed money to build the plaza. And it was, I'm going to say, 5 of us that came forward. It was Reverend John Parrish, Deacon Earl, Deacon Mayberry, Deacon Price, and myself. And we put up the money, the seed money, to build that building. And the building went up. But after it all was all said and done, it came under the guise of Reverend Burns Mount Zion Plaza. And they kind of gave Reverend Burns the total credit for that building rising. And I kind of try to give them the true history as to how it happened. But what happened is that they had formed like incorporation, and was only 3 names on the incorporation. That was Reverend Burns, Deacon Mayberry, and Reverend Parrish, John Parrish. So they were the only ones that was kind of legally involved in that building being generated, built. And so even today, I think we managed to get my name and Deacon Price's name on, at least recognized. But Reverend Burns did say to me, back during the day that we put up the money, the seed money, that our name would be on the cornerstone. And but there was nowhere writing. He didn't do it while he was living, and so some of the folks now is shying away from that, and they're looking at other folks' names to be on the cornerstone. So I'm just kind of afraid that the true history of that building in East Hammond,
tell me Deacon Price's first name?
Alvin Price.
Alvin Price. Okay.
Alvin Price Senior. Yeah, Alvin Price Senior.
Okay. Alvin.
And it was Glenn Earl, Mr. Earl, Glenn Earl.
Glenn Earl. And was that Claude Mayberry?
Yeah, Claude Mayberry.
Claude. Okay.
And John Parrish and myself, Harold Jones. We were the one that put up the money, the seed money for that building.
Okay. All right. That's good information. And once the seed money, how much of the seed money did you guys? Oh, 10,000. That was 10,000.
10,000.
And then,
oh, yeah, 10,000. And the way that went, we had CDs back in those days, and we would put the CD against the money that the government loaned the church and authority, and the money had to sit there for so long, and then after we kept getting our interest, but after the time passed that they were supposed to hold the CD, they gave the money back to us. But it was like collateral.
Okay. Collateral. All right. And then was it what arm of the government actually came and gave or funded the project?
I want to say it was the housing authority of the United States government.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And how long did it actually take to from the seed to having a structure there?
It seemed to me it took like maybe somewhere between 2 and 3 years. I want to say. It may have been a little long. It may have been a little longer, but I know it was late 70s when we started to collecting, and it was probably the early 80s when they started building the building. And I know it was before 85 that the building was completed. But like I said, I can't remember the specifics on the date, but it had to be somewhere between 78 and 83. I would say that the building went up. Now, they talked about it a long time before then, but I want to say it took 3 to 5 years probably for the building to be completed.
And so the actual church owns the building right now?
No, the church doesn't own the building. The church is the housing authority really, well, the incorporation owns the building. Okay, the building is not, they call it the Mount Zion Housing Authority, but it's independent from the church.
Oh, I get you. So, but does the church reap any benefits?
No, church doesn't reap any benefits from the authority. I don't ask him where the money go. I don't know. I was never asked to sit on the board. I was never asked to sit on the board. And like I said, Hammer was a family town, and I came to Hammer. No, I wasn't part of the families that was there, so I had to kind of find my way through the maze.
Okay. So, as far as Reverend Burns was concerned, even though they, the church nor Reverend Burns financially participated in the, or reaping the benefits, I should say, of the building, his whole dream was just to have it there for the good of citizens.
That was his building, to build a senior citizens home for the community. Yeah, it was his dream.
Okay.
And it was we that helped him realize his dream.
Okay. Well, excellent. That's commendable to get a project, and that seemed to be one of the largest projects in East Hammond.
Right. Now, believe me, and I won't get into it, but there was a lot of prominent people fought against the project. Okay, there were prominent people that some of the names that we called earlier that were supposed to be leaders. They fought against it because the building, if I'm not mistaken, was supposed to be 730, and they wanted to know what a building would look like in Hammond, 730 because that area was wooded back in those days, and you had the coal yard across the street from it, and again, I'm being interrupted by a phone call.
Okay.
You had the coal yard, across the street from it, so it wasn't the most pleasant place. And I guess the old church was sitting over there at one time, but there were folks that just didn't have the vision to see this project materializing. And there were prominent people in the community. They fought it. But Reverend Burns, stood strong, stood fast, and got the job done.
Were the people who were against it, were they a part of the white establishment or the black establishment?
No. It was part of the black establishment.
Okay, so black spot. Now,
Some,
do you
some
know?
of some of them are dead now, so I really, they can't speak for themselves, so I don't want to, call names, but they were part of the establishment, the black establishment.
Do you remember what their reasoning, what their argument against?
Yeah, part of the reason, especially with one of the complainers, was the area was a blight area, and they just couldn't see a building of that magnitude going up in a blight area, and what were people going to be looking at? And that was the mentality at the time, and so that's the argument that they were using.
But let me ask you this: what's the definition of a blind? You're saying blind area, right?
No, blight, B-L-I-T-E, blight area.
Oh, blight, blight.
Yeah,
okay.
blight. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so did Reverend Burns say, well, okay, if the area is a blightish type of area, when we construct a building there, it would change the makeup of that area, and therefore it would spread to a better area?
I just can't remember the specifics of the rebuttal, but I do know that Reverend Barnes wasn't about to bend on his dream, and the money wasn't there. He didn't have the money, but he had the belief that he was going to be able to get the money, and he was going to be able to build a building. And, regardless to who was against it or who was for it, he just stayed focused. But there was discussions about, because I'm almost sure it was 733rd at the time, and there was a lot of discussion about a building of that magnitude being put in that area, and what would it look like.
Okay. And after it was, did Reverend Burns or Mount Zion actually own the property at the time, or did they have to buy the property too?
Well, I'm going to say this. As I recall, there was the old Mount Zion Church used to be there. Okay? So I'm going to stick my neck out, and this is not factual.
Okay.
To say that Mount Zion probably owned the property. But my suspicion is that if they didn't own it, they didn't buy it. It would have been given to. I mean, they didn't bought it, but it would have been very cheap. It wouldn't have been a substantial amount of money.
Okay. So somehow the property was under their command, and then they can expand
at one time. Right.
Okay. But that's a big structure. Do you think they own the entire structure, or was it just as part of a plot that they owned? Was it? I know it's on where the church was.
I know. And you see, that's what I don't know the answers to.
Oh, okay.
I really don't. Now Mary Barnes, Mary was the secretary for her dad at the time that they were building. I mean, they were doing this project. I don't know how much Mary knows, but she should be able to give you, if she's willing to talk, a lot of information as to how the government and Reverend Burns came together, because she was doing most of the typing for him during those days.
Okay. And what was the after it was constructed and people moved in? What was the level of success in terms of how it was measured?
I mean, if you're talking about from 1 to 10, I would be willing to give it a 10. I mean, the level of success, it's a successful building. It's a successful project. I mean, very, very, very successful.
Okay. as of today. It's still there, erected, or
Oh,
I should say, and,
it's
and
alive. It's alive and well.
live and
Yeah.
well. And so, were at one point, was all of the residents there the ones who got older from Hammond, or did other areas, people from other areas, come there to move in?
It's shared with multiple areas. There's a lot of Hammond residents in the building, but it's a multi-area building.
Okay. Okay. So let me switch reels real quick and just ask you, in terms of the people who went on to, from Hammond, who went on to some type of national prominence, do you remember any person who their arms reached beyond Hammond and made some kind of impact in other areas? Do you remember anything like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, Nico Mayberry, Claude Mayberry, and his son did well, and it was two sons, Miss Rowley kids, and then as I said, McClendon's did well, and you know, this is the problem. I'm talking about the kids now. I'm not talking about the old one. Roland Parrish, son did well. I mean, believe me, there were a lot of folks that left Hammond and did well. I mean, I can't name. I'm trying to remember Rob Paris and the Clotis son. They're on Ames Street. His name's slips me right now, but he's a musical genius. He did
okay,
well.
when you say Clotis, can you give me the full name?
Clotis, I'm trying to well, she was a parent before she got married. I'm trying to remember her son's name. He played music. He lived on Ames Street.
Okay.
Wow, Jeff Morrow was the name. Jeff Morrow.
Oh, Jeff Morrow. Okay, I get you.
Yeah. I mean, there are lots of folks though that did well, and in their own way, impacted everybody.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Okay, I said I can't remember everybody, but I can tell you who can. I don't know if you talked to him yet or not, but he's the historian of Hammond, Paul Walker. Paul Walker is really the historian of Hammond, and he can probably tell you almost anything you need to know about folks in Hammond. And then after that,
I actually did talk to Paul, and what's important too is that I have other perspectives, because there's a lot of people in Hammond, and so Paul will give me his side.
Exactly. Yeah.
See, you had a different perspective on the building of the structure that some people maybe did not have, even though everybody knows the structure was there.
Right.
So, so it's all good. So let me switch. Before I switch rails to the military stuff, what was? I just want to ask a few questions about the. If you knew anything about the political structure there, and how things got done politically. And I know that from the different mayors, you mentioned Ruskowski and this, that, and the other. And was there a liaison to East Hammond that was connected to the political structure there? And I'm thinking maybe some of the NAACP people like Perline or whatever. But was there anybody else connected?
Well, there's this guy called by the name of George Jones. He's a freestyle firefighter, and he called himself as the ombudsman, but he gave his own self that name. He was the ombudsman for East Hammond, and what that meant was he was supposed to be the communicator between the black community and in the mayor's office or the city. But George too was not born and raised.
Is that George Jones? Jones?
Jones, yes.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
He was probably the first black fireman in Hammond. Him and I think what's his name came. And as well as I know him, I can't call it right now. It'll come to me though. But if he wasn't the first, he was the second. But I'm thinking he was the first black fireman in Hammond. And Clive Franklin, I'm thinking was the second one. But himself a connection, but they never accepted him as the ombudsman.
Okay. When you say he was an arm buster, was it a ball buster or arm buster?
No, I think it's OMSBUSMAN, ombudsman, like a communicator.
Oh, I get you. Okay. All right. So, he basically kind of had the ear of the white establishments for on behalf of blacks.
Well, George was the guy that came in here and broke. I'm gonna just say broke the code, so to speak, of the white-only fire department. And how he got on the fire department is still a mystery, because usually people that got jobs within the city structure, whether it was policemen, firemen, they got some help from somebody in the community. And because we only had 3-4 policemen on the fire department at that time, and so later on, as people started to rally against things, they started to add 1 or 2, but I don't think it ever been any more than 7. It may be more now, but it was never more than 6 or 7 policemen on the police department at any one time, and I couldn't remember more than 3 firemen on the fire department at any given time. So it was kind of like token positions, but they had to be sharp enough to pass the test in some situations.
Okay. So so breaking that segregation gap. And incidentally, do you remember any other first, during that time? Because, Hammond wasn't a big area.
Right.
Or specifically East Hammond. It wasn't, we probably had about, I don't know,
it wasn't
10 square blocks or something. I mean,
yeah. Well, you had Miss Hicks, Reverend Burns' daughter.
Annie Hicks.
Yeah, Annie. She was really, I would say, the icebreaker, and especially in the school system. And I'm trying to remember the police officer name before Paul.
Ronnie Rowe.
Yeah, Ronnie Rowe. Ronnie Rowe was probably the icebreaker with the police department. And then I see George Jones was the icebreaker with the fire department. And then gradually after Annie Hicks, I think Leroy Harwell may have been, the second teacher or something to that effect that was hired at Hammond. And
okay. I'm sorry, Leroy Harwell was the what?
I'm thinking he might have been the second black teacher hired at Hammond.
Okay.
Could be wrong about that, but he was in the top 5. I'm pretty certain.
Okay.
And then even when I came to Hammond and my wife recently had a job there at Hammond High, it was still limited amount of blacks that was in the education structure. So it stayed pretty tightly segregated. Well, I won't say segregated. It was desegregated. It was desegregated, but it wasn't integrated. The system. So the system had been desegregated, but not really integrated.
Okay, so they had a limited amount of blacks
in
various capacities.
Right, and so quietly they started infusing blacks into the system. I mean, it wasn't that somebody was reading a whole lot of cane. It was just kind of quietly done.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking the fact that Annie had to go to court.
Oh yeah. Her situation was. That's why I said she was a real icebreaker. I mean, I would consider her as the icebreaker for the education system.
Do you remember other maybe first in any category, any person that stood out as a person who kind of broke a barrier and it could be in business, it could be in any field that you remember? Because we mentioned firefighters, we mentioned police officers. Any other field?
This may not mean a lot, but in the court system, Jules Alexander was the first bailiff.
First bailiff?
In the Hammond City Court.
Uh-huh.
I was the first probation officer with the Hammond City Court, and that was under Jack Crawford, the first black.
What year? Do you remember what year you started the probation?
I want to say I started probation 78, 79, one of those years.
Okay. Okay. First black. Okay, keep going. You're doing great. I didn't know that
Yeah.
Jewel was a bailiff there.
Yeah, he was the first black bailiff of the city court. And I worked in the court, but I was a probation officer in the court. I wasn't a bailiff. Let's see. Yes. Well, when you start talking about the crosses and Earl Cross, I mean, not in so much in Hammond, but he was one of the first professional athletes. I'm thinking out of Hammond.
Right.
Uh,
First NFL.
right.
And then also he was the first
Announcer.
reporter for CBS.
Yeah, reporter, right. CBS reporter. And Leroy Hardwell was the first black coach in the city of Hammond. Boys coach, number coach in the city of Hammond.
Boys coach at Hammond High?
Yeah, he was the first black coach, high school basketball coach.
Basketball, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. That's good. I didn't know. I spoke with him, and I didn't get that from him, but good.
Right.
Basketball.
And he was a good coach. So he was, yeah. And now Raymond Cross did a lot of things. And in junior high school, he was probably the first most successful coach, a black coach, both football and basketball in the city of Hammond. And what happened with Raymond in the middle school for basketball, he was beating up on teams so much in Hammond that they had to make a rule, and they called it the Raymond Cross rule, that after his kids got more than 20 points against any other kids, he had to take his starters out. He couldn't put his starters in. They had to stay out and sit down and watch the other kids play. So he was responsible for the Raymond Cross rule and in the city of Hammond in basketball, middle school basketball.
Okay. So even though Leroy was the first coach, Raymond was the first successful coach in terms of domination?
Domination, yeah, as far as domination. Now, Leroy had some good programs, but Raymond would have been the most successful coach as far as domination in football and basketball.
He was a coach of both football and basketball.
Yeah, he coached both.
Okay. Does that Raymond rule still hold today?
I mean, as far as I know it, I taught school in Hammond for, almost, I've got 40-some years of teaching experience. I did 3 years in Gary and the rest of the time in Hammond. And the rule has been there since, and I retired in 11, and it was still on the books.
Okay. When did you retire?
2011.
2011. Okay. So any score that is like if someone was had 50 and Hammond High had 70, they have to take their starters out.
Take their starters out, right?
Was that same thing? Was that same rule applied to football?
No, just basketball.
Just basketball. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Those are good. That's good information. So, can you think of? And you're doing great in terms of remembering first and stuff like that. Do you remember any other first?
No, not. I mean, not at the time.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's cool because this is, it's funny how you get enough information when you talk to enough people, and then you compile it all together, and then it becomes a litany of facts.
Right.
So you definitely gave your share on this one right here. So let's quickly just switch reels to military now, and since you served in Vietnam, I just wanted to get you to build a picture. What we're trying to do is we're trying to spotlight people who have gone on, who either lived in Hammond or from Hammond, who participated in the military, to show that we have patriotism and this, that, and the other within our Hammond residents. So I just need you to be as colorful as possible or descriptive as possible on some of these questions in terms of the story of how you even got into the military. So, and I know you're in Louisiana at the time, so tell me, were you drafted or did you enlist, or just tell me the story.
Not necessarily as Morris, is that I was always kind of patriotic. When I say patriotic, we in the South, when guys came out of high school, they didn't have much of a choice. They either went to college or they went into the military. And I saw a lot of people ahead of me going into the military. And as a young kid, even in elementary school, middle school, or junior high school, they called it back then, in high school, many of my teachers were veterans. They're either World War II veterans, Korean veterans, Korean conflict veterans. And so I was around a lot of veterans in my time. And in my little community, most everybody was going to the military. So I always kind of knew that I was going to the military because I wasn't going to be one of the guys that didn't go. And what happened is that I went to college, and I was getting a deferment during my college years. And my senior year, I knew there was the draft had been invoked. So my senior year, what I didn't apply for a deferment. The second semester of my senior year, I didn't apply for a deferment. So that was in January. In April, I was drafted. I received my draft notice and had a job, but I gave the job to my friend that was in the same area. And I asked the guy that was going to hire me, asked me if they would hire him, and they did. But so when I went to the custom house or the board to be for the draft for the physical and the test, they were also drafted for the Marine Corps. And they indicated to us that anybody that volunteered for the Marine Corps draft didn't have to serve for 2 years. Well, that's all I wanted to do was get my 2 years in anyway, just to see I was in the military and to kind of see the world a little bit. So I volunteered for the Marine Corps. And I went into the Marine Corps, went to MCRD, Marine Corps Depot there in San Diego, California for boot camp. And then there was a place called Clemente in Oceanside, California for some advanced training. I came home for 30 days, and then I went to a place called Camp Pendleton, California, for more like jungle warfare type of training, because my MOS was I was combat trooper. And
so what year was this?
This was 68 and going into 69. Well, it was 68 really. It was 68.
Okay.
And so after Camp Pendleton, they flew us to Hawaii for a few days for staging. And from Hawaii, they flew us to Okinawa for maybe 2 weeks or so for some advanced staging. And then from Okinawa, they sent us to Vietnam. I ended up going to a place called Da Nang, Vietnam. Da Nang was an area that was infested with booby traps. But that's how I got to it. But that was my course of Vietnam.
Okay. So what was your actual job? Like when you got to Da Nang, I mean, what was your actual job there?
Well, my MOS was like 0311. And 0311 is a basic rifleman, or we call them a grunt. In other words, you did that. Your job was to run patrols, take out the enemy, do operations. Other words, to cease and destroy. That's see, search, and destroy. That was the mission.
Okay, see, search, and destroy.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the definition of MOS?
Military obligation status.
Okay. Okay. And what was your rank?
Well, my highest rank was E5, which was sergeant. But what happened after I got out of the military, I was discharged as a corporal, but when I got out, I had some adjustment problems, so I went to the reserves, and I stayed in the reserves for 12 years. And
Okay. So before we talk about that, let's continue with when you're in. Can you tell me any missions that you can talk about that you went on as a rifleman or grunt? That did you overtake any hills, any areas, this, that, and the other? What do you remember any missions?
Oh yeah, I remember missions. The thing is we ran patrols during the 11th day. I had to go on I don't know 50 to 100 patrols within the time that I said a 6-month period. I went on a number of operations. One big operation we went on was called Operation Pipestone Canyon. And the thing is that you know when you go on those operations, somebody's not gonna come back. Somebody's gonna be killed. And the thing is that you're always wondering if it's gonna be you. We ran into a lot of hit and run type of firefights. I mean, when I say hit and run, it lasts for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and sometimes it might last for 20 minutes, but 20 minutes is a long time to be in a firefight. Now, one firefight, and I was wounded, and this was not bad, but I did pick up some shrapnel. It lasts almost 3 hours, but we got hit at night, like 12 o'clock at night, and it went to 2, 3, almost 4 o'clock that next morning. I mean, just constantly fighting. So there was and the next day in that firefight, even though, like I said, I got a little shrapnel in my leg.
Now, was that from a mortar or for a grenade?
That was from what we call an RPG round. We call it propel grenade. And what happened? Me and another guy was on 2 other guys really. We were on a machine gun position. Well, it's 2 of us that was on a machine gun, and one with the M16. But we were on the same position, and we had a machine gun. And what happened is that every 15 rounds was a tracer round. So we can actually see the mortar position, where the mortar was coming from, or they were shooting the drop. And so we was focusing in on certain targets. And what they started doing, I said it was RPG, but it's basically a mortar, because they started walking around to our position. And so what happened is that I'm just thinking they must have been just a hair off our position, because the post next to us took a direct hit. And then and it just kind of blew those guys to smithereens. But what happened, they dropped the next one behind us, and the 3 of us got shrapnel. But it wasn't anything major. We didn't have to stop fighting. There were situations where posts got overrun that night, and we lost people, but people they had what was called suicide squads. They would come in and go into hooch's bunkers, and they'll burn them down. And but inside the compound that night, we killed 48 Vietnamese or Goose. Now, we don't know how many we killed outside, because they usually take their dead with them just like we do. But we actually buried 48 Goose that next morning.
Okay. So you not only were given the orders to kill them under fire, but you had to bury them.
Well, what happened? No. What happened is that we were just in a situation that day that we had to bury them. what happens a lot of time when you kill them, they're just out there. You know, we don't necessarily bury them. Now, what we did do a lot of time, we would dig up graves to see whether or not there was weapons buried under the graves. But the thing is that that's a tedious job. It's a hard job digging graves, because what happens, they don't put them in boxes and anything. They just throw them in graves, and once you start to deteriorate, it stinks. It smells bad.
Right.
You can't always take it. Yeah.
Now, that mission that you killed 48, was that still the Pipestone Canyon mission?
No, that wasn't Pipestone Canyon. Pipestone Canyon, it's difficult to say how many was killed that day. Not that day, we were probably out for almost a month. But you just, like I said, you get in firefights, and it's like hit and run. You know, it's not like you always know how many people got killed at a particular time. You know how many people you lose, pretty much, or you get wounded, but you don't know always how many people you kill on the other side.
Okay. And so, was the main objective is to to get closer to the enemy and to take land,
Well,
you mean take over like mountains and hills and stuff like that?
It depends on the branch of military you're in or the outfit. Now, there were some outfits that Hill 55, they'll take Hill 55, Hamburger Hill, you took Hamburger Hill, doing Kidsan, but we weren't taking any hills. We were just basically running operations and patrols, and we were running into the enemy that way, going into villages and searching out villages and destroying stuff like that. But as far as taking hills, now I was on a mountain called Marble Mountain, but we didn't
Marble
have to
is an M-A-R-V-E-L, Marble?
M-A-R-B-L-E, Marble.
Oh, Marble. Okay, I'm sorry, Marble.
Yeah, like marble bricks or marble. There's actually mountains in Asia and Vietnam that's strictly nothing but marble.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time on top of that mountain. But as far as taking any hills, we didn't have to take any.
Mm-hmm. And so the purpose of being on top of that Marble Mountain most of the time was because it was a good strategic place to be.
Yeah, it was strategic. Matter of fact, it was right off the China Sea, and but it was strategic. And when you're young too, you don't. I mean, and as a black trooper, you don't always know the real reason why you're doing things. All you know, you're told to do it, and you go out and you're doing it. But you find out later on in life there was somebody was doing it, and they were doing it for a purpose. Some people know, and a lot of times the white boys get the inside scoop, and they know, but a lot of black troopers don't really. We just kind of told what to do and end up doing it.
Okay. So how did, first of all, did you have personal friends that were dying around you? I mean, that you've acquired friendships with?
Well, what happened is that you're told not to get too close to anybody, okay? And because people do die, do get killed. Now, there is one guy that's in D.C. now, and he was the guy that was on the machine gun position with me. He's a white guy. We got to, we got to know each other pretty good and be, pretty good friends. Now, I won't say friends, but good associates. Other than that, I didn't really have a lot of friends, but there was people that died around me, and I'll give you an example. There was a young man by the name of Danny Coleman, and he's from Illinois. And the matter of fact, he was from Rockfield, Illinois. And
Rockfield or Rockford?
He was from Rockfield.
Okay.
And not Rockfield, Rockford. F-O-R-D.
Yeah,
Rockford.
Okay.
Yeah, Rockford. That's what. And I was standing maybe, I'm gonna say 5 feet away from him, and there were other people around. But what happened? It was early in the morning. A sniper fired, and the bullet hit him and killed him instantly. And what happened? The bullet went through him, ricocheted, hit one guy in the leg, ricocheted, and hit another guy in the shoulder. So 3 people were wounded as a result of that sniper. One guy was killed, one was fatal, and 2 was wounded as result of that situation. And that it's kind of hard because that sniper, you were in the crosshair at some point when that sniper, before he chose to shoot the person that he killed. So and I'll think about it, and it could have been me. And then one night, we was on an island, a little island. It was called No Name Island. I was sitting next to a brother, and I got up and went to the water buffalo to get some water. And when I came back, he got up, but there had to be a pressurized booby trap that was next to, so he was in it went off. And when it went off, he got a lot of trap in his home. I just got little fragments of the trap in my hand. It wasn't bad enough to make any deal out of it, but it could have been a whole lot worse. So, yeah, and there were guys, I can tell you about a lot of guys. We were out in the area, and the company commander came, and they wanted to walk around in the area, and what happened, a group sprung up out of a hole, and there were two guys, I never forget, David Pugh and a guy by the name of Anthony Morano. Matter of fact, Anthony Morano was like just turning 18 years old. Some of these guys come to the military when they're 17. So that was the day of his birthday. He got killed. And there's a lot of people that get killed. But what happened is that it hurts, but you become kind of numb about death. And you just focus on, killing. People, what happens, you denigrate people, and people become less than people. And so when you don't see the enemy as people, it becomes easier to destroy.
Okay. And what did, during all of that, right in the middle of all that, obviously you're numb because you have to be, and you're not getting your friends because so what does that do to your psyche, though? Or did you have to readjust once you got out?
Well, I'll tell you this, Bobby. Your name is Bobby, right?
Yes.
Is Bobby artist? Okay. I'll tell you. I went a long time not knowing I had problems. Well, I knew I had problems. That's why I went into the reserves, because I didn't want to go back into the military, and I needed to be around people that had some type of experience. So that was the reason I went back to the reserve. But after staying in there a while, I felt like there wasn't anything wrong with me. It was the other side. But I always had, starter reflexes and intrusive activities and nightmares and what's up. And I still have them. And what happened is that as the down, I receive help. And I found I went through the VA, and I have a psychologist, I have a psychiatrist, and I still go to anger management classes, and I still go to a therapy session, and this is on a weekly basis almost. So I've been helping for a long time now. I'll put it this way: I was a gym teacher, so being a gym teacher, I can act out real easily. I can pretend as though, drill instructor, teach. That's kind of like in the drill instructor manner. And then I exercise a lot, swim fairly well, so I did a lot of swimming. So when I was younger, I was able to kind of compensate. But as I got older, it started bothering me more. So I do have some problems, and I am a disabled vet. I do, I do get treated for disability, for post-traumatic stress, and some other mental health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you in combat when they were doing that Agent Orange?
Well, the thing is that as it goes now, I have type 2 diabetes, and I'm being paid for Agent Orange. Yeah. Yeah, I was in there, and I'm still affected. There's some other things that's going on with me right now. I haven't put in a claim for it, but I will put in a claim for it soon. I'm still seeing doctors at the VA, but I have been affected by Agent Orange.
Okay. And so what are some of the things that, and can you just describe what Agent Orange is? Why do they even call it Agent Orange, and
Well,
How
it
did
was
you get exposed to it?
yeah, it was like a defoliant that was sprayed to kill off a lot of the herbal sections of Vietnam, so that the enemy couldn't hide as well. I mean, it really destroyed the forest because it was a jungle type warfare. And when they sprayed it, what happened? It was a chemical that sprayed it pretty much all over Vietnam, and so it was in the air, and people didn't realize it, but they were breathing in this stuff. And then not only that, our water, we had to put halazone tablets in the water a lot of times to drink the water. So we were drinking water that was poison, really, even though we were putting the tablets in to purify it, but we still weren't drinking good water. And so it was a lot of stuff that we was exposed to in intake that we were being affected by the spray that they used to kill off a lot of the herbicide. I really, at least it was the herbicide.
And you saying that from Agent Orange you could possibly get
You can
diabetes.
get cancer.
What are some of the other things that you could get?
You can get cancer. You can get, like I said, high blood. I mean, you can even get high blood pressure. You can get diabetes. You can have eye trouble. Have problems seeing. I mean, you can have rashes. You start breaking out with certain kind of rashes, and the doctors really don't know exactly what caused that rash. It's unusual. Like I have a spot on my arm right now. It's purely white. Just turned white. So it's not visible because usually the shirt sleeve is over it, or I have a long sleeve. But what happens sometimes in parts of your body, the rashes break out, and then they'll leave. They'll come in there. So there's all kinds of, it affects you all kind of ways. A lot of ways, I put it that way.
Okay. And do you think when you were serving, that the time that you served, and then that you went to combat, that a good percentage of the, I guess, the military were exposed to Agent Orange at the time?
Well, the way it's treated now, they are saying that anybody who put foot on Vietnam soil was exposed to Agent Orange. That's the way it's being treated.
Okay. So if you landed in Vietnam, you were exposed.
If you landed in Vietnam and you put foot on the soil, then you have a chance of being affected by Agent Orange.
Okay. So after you, the reason, you're saying that the reason why after you were discharged, so you got an honorable discharge, and then after you got discharged, then you went back to join the National Guard.
No, not the National Guard. I joined the Marine Corps Reserve.
Oh, the Reserve. So,
yeah, the Marine Corps Reserve.
And so isn't the idea of reserve that if they call you, you got to go and serve again?
Well, yeah. But the thing is that I had done my time, and I had to go to summer camp. So I knew if they called me, I had to go again. But I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't think that was going to happen anyway. It never crossed my mind that I was going to have to go back.
And did you have to go back?
No, I didn't have to go back.
You didn't have to go back. Okay. And how long were you a reserve?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. And what was the main reason why you wanted to be reserve? Is it to decompress, or
Yeah. Well, debrief to a certain extent. You could say decompress, but debrief. What happened is that I had problems, and me and my wife was not getting along well. And I didn't realize a lot of this stuff was military connected. I just thought it was personal problems with the family. But I was thinking about going back in the military, but I didn't want to go back in. And so I talked to a lawyer because I was talking about filing for a divorce at that time. And he recommended that maybe I should try the reserves and see how it works. And I did. And like better, and I really didn't like getting up, one weekend out of a month anymore, going to a meeting. So I got out.
Mm-hmm. So looking back in retrospect from when you were actual in combat and then the reserve, um, do you think, how do you feel about the military and also the fact that you have been damaged, through Agent Orange and through, actually seeing the deaths and all that, was it worth it? Is your life,
Well,
I wouldn't say it's better, but what do you think about that?
yeah, Bobby, I'm gonna tell you, I'm glad it's behind me. I'm glad I went. I'm glad I survived it. And the thing is that I think I'm a better person because I served.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I didn't understand the politics of war like I do now. And for the guys that didn't go and went to Canada, the thing that I say about them is that back in those days they were just a little smarter than I was. So I don't hold any malice against anybody that didn't go for whatever reason. And even now, anybody that don't serve, I don't hold malice against them. But I think that if one serves and he gets the right, I'm going to use the term again, MOS, he can fare fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
But if he gets an MOS where he becomes a basic rifleman and he has to fight, he's going to have some problems in life when he gets out if he lives through it. And for me, it's kind of way of life. For anybody else, number one, when I say it's kind of way of life, some people are going to do it. But the politicians are crooks. And they're sending guys over to war for the wrong reasons. And so anybody that protests against the war and don't go, I understand why they won't go in, because all you're doing is fighting for some rich person to get richer. And this country has a way of selling lies to people and making you believe that the reason you're doing things is the real reason when there's a hidden reason behind it.
Okay. Now, in your estimation, does the government properly take care of? Because I know you say you go to the
Yeah.
the Veterans Association for help and this, that, and the other, and then you probably got the GA loan and all that kind of stuff. So, do they take care of you?
Well, I'm gonna say this, and statistically, you might not be able to prove it, but I do believe that those white boys get 100% benefit and get better benefits oftentimes than the masses of black troopers. Now, they help us, they give us stuff, but I'm around a lot of white boys, and most of the white guys that I know, I'll give you an example. I know a white guy that was in the same place that I was in. And but the only thing is I would come back trooper, and he was in the Air Wings. He's 100% benefit. And we meet in the same, every Tuesday, every Thursday. He's 100%, but I'm less. And I know, a lot of these white boys, they even more than 100%. They like neuropathy, they get rated in the hands and the ankles and the knees. They get rated in such a way that they'll never lose their benefits. Whereas a lot of us as blacks, we have to continue to go to meetings and show that we still have the problem. And if for some reason we can't show that we have the problem, they can't cut out. They can cut anybody benefits, but it seems to me that white boys are a little bit more secure than a lot of black guys in these situations. Like I said, you never hear people talking about it, and people disagree with me on it, but it seems to me that they have an edge.
When you say 100%er, what does that mean? They get 100% of benefits?
Yeah, you see, you have different percentages of disability. When you're disabled, your disability is rated on percentages, and it can be anywhere from 10% to
life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some of them can get locked in for life because of the way they're rated.
Mm. Okay.
I mean, don't
So,
get me wrong. There's some blacks that can get it too, but you better believe the black guys that's getting it, they have problems. I mean, you know, they most of them, as I know, they deserve it, and then there's a whole lot of them out there that deserve it that's not getting it.
why would one not get it?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Bobby, and you know, probably know it just as well as I do, is that in this system, people want to pretend that they don't see race, but race is a problem in this system. And when I go to face a white psychologist, they may not see it, but they because of their cultural conditioning, they see me as a black person. And we don't always, in some respects, sometimes, there is a communication difference. And they grew up in a culture where when they perceive something as being wrong, that's the way it is because that's the way they've seen it all their life in their culture. But I may have a similar problem, but because they weren't exposed to my culture, they don't see my problem the same way as they see the guy that looks like them. So what we need more black folks and other folks in the system than just white folks. Because as long as you have it that way, you're always going to have that problem. I mean, in anything you do, it's going to always be that way. Because the perception is different, the conditioning is different.
Right. So you're saying the solution is to have more upper management black people in power, so therefore, you know, they can see.
Right, people that can feel what you feel. Because everybody, depending on race, don't feel the same thing. Even though it can be the same problem, they don't have the same feeling for it.
Okay. So, and this is all great information. Do you know, can you say you go to the meetings? Is the the building, is it in Hammond or where is that?
No, it's in Chicago Heights. I go to the vet for my, for therapy and I have a yoga class too that I do. I go to Chicago Heights, and then for my depression or PTSD, I also go to Chicago Heights, but I do it on Skype. I don't sit face to face with my psychiatrist. I'm on TV. But my psychologist, I go to Adam Benjamin there in Crown Point, but I sit with him face to face. And then I have another psychologist and these are doctors that do the anger management. In the anger management class, we're face to face.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is really been helpful, and then also, you know, what this will be used to spotlight. You will represent Vietnam.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to have some Korean conflict and different ones. And if you know of any Iraq, if you know of any Afghanistan, and there's probably the younger generation, but if you know of any people from Hammond, you know, you can give them my number or call me and give me their number, because I want all the wars represented. I don't know if I can find any World War II. I mean, if you know of any, they're probably really old at this point.
Yeah. Jim Davis was the one World War II veteran that I knew out of Hammond, and I don't think there any. Now there's one guy saying that he was a World War II veteran. What's his name? It'll come to me, but I think he might have been a little bit too young for World War II because World War II veterans right now, they're in their 90s. They're like 92, 93 and older. Whereas the guy that I'm thinking about, he's still in his 80s, so he couldn't have been. He might have been doing in that towards the end, but I don't really think that he was a World War II veteran. And I'm trying to think of his name as well. I mean, I know him well because he goes to church with us just can't call his name right now.
Well, if you do end up talking to him and you assess if it really was that, or maybe he's confused with Korean War, because
No,
that
I think he's a little bit too old for Korea and too young for World War II. Korea, yeah, you will be somewhere between 82 and 88 right now, I think, with the Korean conflict. But he's somewhere between 88 and 90, but like I said, I think he might have gone in on the end of it.
Well, if he did go in on the end of it, he qualified. I'd like to talk to him.
His name just came to me. It's Joe Caesar. Joe Caesar, that's his name. And he lives on, I want to say, Ray Street there in Hammer.
Joe Caesar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on Ray Street. Ray Street. Okay. So, so if you by chance get his number, please give it to me so I can talk to him. And then if you see any younger, Afghanistan,
Right.
those
Right.
Iraq.
Okay, I'll be looking around. Now your number though is 323-620-6162.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's me. And I wanted to just officially thank you for participating in this, and you gave me a lot of great information about not only Hammond, but the military. And at one point, I'm going to, ask you for a picture. As a matter of fact, my email address is bobmartis2. I'll text you.
Text me that.
And then if you can, give me a picture too. And as we get and you give me your email address and then give me your picture. I will stay in contact with you as this becomes more towards the fruition of this, because what happened is this will be transcribed and it will be placed into the library in books. And
now, do you want military picture or do you want regular civilian picture?
Can you give me two? Can you give me one
Yep.
military and then one regular?
Yeah, probably.
And then also, it's going to be, we're creating a website, and it will be spotlighted under, there's going to be a military section, and people who served. And so at one point, you just represent all of the Vietnam people, but at one point, all the people in Hammond, we're going to find out who else is there, and we're just going to have names listed. But your story will be spotlighted, but then other people's names will be on there. And this is just to show that the East Hammond black residents are a part of the patriotic system of, we serve too kind of thing, in all wars. So that's what you represent. So I really want to thank you for even talking to me. Nobody has to ever talk to me. So I appreciate anybody who talked to me, especially this early in the morning.
Okay. Well, let me just say this before we sign off, though. There is an ugly side, but like I said, we won't get into it. And I kind of mentioned to you yesterday that my squad ended up getting the squad that I was in ended up getting in some trouble, and some civilians got killed. And
well, if you want to,
I really don't want to.
Okay, then that's fine. But you can because sometimes people start to go on the internet and maybe research and this, that, and the other. But even if they did, the thing is, you've already said, as black people, sometimes you're given orders, and even as a military, you don't even have to be black. You're given an order, and that's what you have to do.
Exactly.
And in fact, there was a whole movie on it. I think that was called A Few Good Men, where they were given an order to do whatever, and and then you were exonerated at the end of whatever conflict that was. And if you weren't, they wouldn't have given you an honorable discharge.
Right. No, you're right about that. You're exactly right. You're right.
Yeah. So, but you open up my, the light to this part of the Vietnam War and the Agent Orange, and so we got a lot out of this. And my hope is that some of this documentation it's definitely going to be in a book, but in terms of research, it will give Hammond High residents or students the ability
Right.
to go to some document somewhere and find some black people.
Right.
And, as opposed to we didn't exist kind of situation.
Exactly. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good, it's a good thing that you're doing.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's for the betterment and upliftment of black people in East Hammond. So we did exist. I'm talking to somebody right now who lived there. So we are here. We real. So, but anyway, thank you very much. And then you have my number, so you can log it in, and if you find anybody else or you have any other thing to say or any other thing, I'm available.
All right. I appreciate it. I really do. And,
okay.
And
thank
you,
you, sir.
Sure, and thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.